Hi, boys and girls. This week at preschool, we are talking about our five senses. And so we are going to go through a PowerPoint today to help us talk about those five senses, okay? So let me get that set up and we will get started. All right, this slide shows us what our five senses are. This is an eye in yellow here, and that is for our sense of sight, or that we can see, okay? And then over here in the orange, there's an ear. That reminds us that we can hear. That's another sense. In the red, oh, what's that? Is that a nose? That reminds us that we can smell. In the blue, oh, we have a tongue, and that reminds us that we can taste. And then over here in the green, we have a hand, and that reminds us that we can touch. So we can see, we can hear, we can smell, we can taste, and we can touch. And those are our five senses. All right, let's look at each of those a little bit more. So, what is this? That's right, this is our eye. And how many eyes do you have? Do you have two eyes? That's right. Now, when we see something, it is reflected light. So, light rays bounce off of what we're looking at. Let's say we're looking at a ball. We look at the ball, light rays bounce off of that ball, and then the light goes into our eyes. And the light goes through this black spot in the middle of our eye. This is called a pupil. Can you say pupil? And by the way, the colored part of our eye is called the iris. Can you say iris? Oh my goodness. Very good. All right, let's go to the next slide. Here's our eye as we normally see it on our face. And then this is what we call a diagram of our eye so we can see on the inside because we can't see the inside just looking at our eye, can we? All right, over here is where we have our pupil and our iris. And we said the light goes through the pupil and it gets to this part of the eye called the lens. And then the lens kind of narrows the light and lets it go back to the back of the eye to the retina. And the retina is like a camera. And what do cameras do? I know. The retina takes a picture like a camera would. And then it sends the picture back through our head to our brain. And our brain figures out what we're looking at. Do you know that when the eye looks at something, it actually sees it upside down and backwards? But when the message gets to our brain fixes it so we can see it right side up and forwards. I think it's amazing, and I will say that a lot. And do you know that your eye can see 10 million different colors? Oh, amazing. And who gives us our eyes? Who made our eyes? I know God did. And is it any wonder that the eyes are so amazing? Because God makes everything amazing, doesn't He? All right. So our eyes help us see. And what is this? I know that's an ear, and our ears help us hear. And we're just going to go through a little bit about how ears work. So right here, you can see the outer part of your ear. And in fact, that's called the outer ear. Can you touch your ear? Yeah, that's your outer ear. The ear is divided into three parts, and one of those parts is the outer ear. And the job of the outer ear is to collect the sounds that are coming in and then send those sounds through this opening called a canal. And you can see the opening, can't you? But you can't see when it way in there by yourself, can you? All right, the sounds go through the canal to the next part of the ear, which is called the middle ear. That makes sense. Outer ear, middle ear. And in the middle ear, you find the eardrum. Oh my goodness, this thing is called the eardrum. When the sound hits the eardrum moves. And then there are some little bones behind the eardrum that move and they create things that are called vibrations. Can you say vibrations? Now, those vibrations move from the middle ear to the inner ear. That's the third part of the ear. And the inner ear takes those vibrations and sends messages to your brain about those vibrations. And that's how your brain figures out what you're hearing. Good goodness, again, that's very amazing. And do you know that your ear can hear 1,500 different sounds? Whew, That's a lot of sounds. So we can see, we can hear. I wonder what we'll talk about next. Well, we're going to talk about this. This is your nose. And where is your nose on your face? Oh, well, there are your eyes. So it's below your eyes. There's your mouth. It's above your mouth, isn't it? And how many noses do you have? You have one nose. And of course, we know our nose is good for breathing and for smelling. And if you were laying down, you could see this part of your nose, right? And you have one nose, but it has two openings, and those are called nostrils. And then this part of your nose right here that divides the two nostrils is called cartilage. So the air goes into your nose and it travels through your nose into your throat, which is in here, and then down to your lungs, which are here. And that's how you breathe. And do you know when the air goes into your nose, it gets cleaned by things in your nose, including little hairs? Now, when smells get into your nose, they travel in there, and there are things in your nose that send messages to your brain about what you're smelling. And do you know that you can smell between 2,000 and 4,000 different smells? Again, God made your nose pretty amazing. All right, let's go to our next sense. We're going to talk about taste next. And here's our tongue. And if you were to stick your tongue out and look at it, you could see a lot of little bumps. And then in between those little bumps are more bumps that you can't even see. And those are called your taste buds. Your taste buds. And your taste buds have special cells that send messages to your brain about what you're tasting. Now, here are some of the different kinds of tastes that you can taste. There are 5 different tastes that you can taste. Down here in the yellowish, we have the salty taste. Okay, that's the part of the tongue that can taste the salty taste. So if you taste a potato chip or popcorn, that would tell the tongue, oh, that's salty. Right here in the pink is where you can taste sweet things, okay? And that would be like things with sugar, like a cookie or ice cream. Mm-hmm. All right, over here in the green, on both sides of your tongue, is where you taste sour things, like a lemon. Have you ever tasted a lemon before? And then back at the back of your tongue in the blue is where you can taste bitter things. Now, bitter is kind of hard to describe. It's kind of close to sour, but sometimes there's like a baking chocolate that's very, very dark and it has a bitter taste. Now, in the middle is the 5th kind of taste, which is umami. Isn't that a fun name? Umami, which is described as a very rich taste. Okay, so we have one tongue, and there are 5 different kinds of tastes, and the tongue is divided into sections that taste that kind of taste. And the tongue sends the messages to our brain about those tastes. Now, did you know you have 10,000 taste buds? 10,000. And every 2 weeks, you get new taste buds. All right, the old ones go away and you get the new ones. And you know that because you're young, you're 3, 4, or 5 years old, you have about the 10,000 taste buds. But when you get older, you lose taste buds. So if you're like old like Mrs. Becker, you might have only 5,000 taste buds. But that's okay. Mrs. Becker can still taste. All right, our last sense is the sense of touch. And we can use our hands and our fingers to touch, but you know what? Our skin, which is all over our body, feels things, doesn't it? So our skin helps us touch things that are hot or cold, or dull or sharp, or soft or hard, or rough or smooth, or wet or dry, among many, many other things. And that's what these pictures are showing around here, some of the different kinds of things that you can feel. And our skin on the outside is called the epidermis. That's the upper part of our skin. And then below that, there's a part of the skin called the dermis, and that's where your blood vessels are. And the skin has different, what are called receptors. All right. And you touch something, and then through those receptors, messages travel to our brain, and the brain can tell us things about what we're touching. All right. So let's look at this picture because there was kind of a pattern there. The eye, the ear, the tongue, the hand or the skin, and the nose all send messages to our brain about what we're seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, and smelling. And our brain tells us about those things then. And I think that's amazing. And again, who gave us our eyes, our ears, our nose, our tongue, and our hands and our skin to touch? I know God did. And in the Bible, there's a verse in Psalm 139, verse 14, that says, I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. And I think of that when I think of all the things that we just talked about. God gave us this amazing body with these amazing things and these senses that we have that help us in our lives. Again, amazing. All right, boys and girls, I have a little poem that I want us to learn about our senses. And the poem goes like this. My senses, and we're going to put our hands up because we have 5 senses. My senses are a part of me, a nose to smell, and eyes to see, ears to hear, and hands to touch, a tongue to taste good food and such. My senses are a part of me, working all in harmony. That means they all work together. Now, do you think you can help me with that again? My senses are a part of me, a nose to smell and eyes to see. Let's see, ears to hear and hands to touch, a tongue to taste good food and such. My senses are a part of me, working all in harmony. Okay, now I'm going to say it, but I'm going to leave out words and you see if you can put the words in, okay? My senses are a part of me, a nose to smell, there you go, and eyes to see, very good. Ears to hear, good job, and hands to touch, a tongue to taste, good job, good food and such. My senses are a part of me, good job, working all in harmony. Well, we went through a lot of information about our senses. Thank you, boys and girls, for helping me. All right, bye-bye. And you know what I suggest you do? Go find a mirror and look at your eyes, your nose, your tongue, your ears, and your hands a little bit closer. Bye-bye.